Okay, so here we're going to learn pretty quickly how to set up an Illustrator file to move over to After Effects pretty painlessly. We're not going to spend too much time in Illustrator. We're going to go into After Effects and just start to mess around a little bit. The important things you want to learn or you want to think about when you move things over into After Effects are: what do I need to animate? What things, where can I find shortcuts in my animations? So one thing that After Effects does really well is you can create kind of animation symbols called precompositions. So my original design for this particular logo, which is not here, let's open up this file here really quick. So we can look at the original design. And I always make a separate animation file. So, okay, here we go. So this is the original design for the logo that we will be animating. You'll notice that on this version there are some things here that are missing on this version. And that's largely because I can essentially animate one of these items and then copy and flip that same animation for this item, so I can have those items kind of animating at the same time, and I can do it once here, copy and paste it over here. So in my file, when I set up an Illustrator, I don't want to have to worry about those layers being separate and having to animate those items separately, because I can reuse those assets over here. Now, if these assets on this right side were different than these assets on this side, then I'd want to keep them and think about, animating them separately, but that's not the case for my logo. Okay, so let me give you the basics. Basically, when you import a file from After Effects, from Illustrator into After Effects, what After Effects needs is for anything that you want to animate to be on a separate, unique layer. So this is where Illustrator becomes Photoshop. Because you want to move all of these items into their separate layers that you want to animate. So basically just remember that anything that you leave in a layer will be flattened and combined, and I'll use the term flattened carefully because it doesn't mean that it's bitmapped per se, but that it is all joined together, so you won't be able to animate things separately as easily. So if you notice, I've grouped these letters here. I could be persuaded to animate this separately. However, After Effects does have pretty good typography skills in it as well. So I could always just retype and rewarp this type in After Effects and have a lot more capabilities since it is live text. If this was live text still in Illustrator, I'm pretty sure it would carry over as live text into After Effects. It's not, at least in this version. I could find the version of the logo where I hadn't outlined it yet and bring that in there, but I don't know that there it is. I don't know that I particularly am worried about it, but why don't we just do it really quickly. Let's see what happens. I don't know how After Effects is going to feel about the warping. Looks like I beefed this up a bit in between. And I'm not too worried about it. So let's just make sure. Okay, let's bring this into After Effects and see what happens. So we are going to import file we're going to find our shield logo here. I have it in this project folder under motion comps. We want to import it as a composition, and we want to retain the layer sizes, the individual sizes of each layer. Okay, so After Effects has imported our file. So let me break this down for you real quick. So a composition is the basic layout structure of After Effects. Okay, so this is our composition. It took it in and it made essentially like a viewing palette, if you will. I don't know who uses the term viewing palette, but that's what it is. And you can see here in this composition, it's placed all of our layers in the way that I had them structured in Illustrator. Those layers are also found here. So if we wanted to, for example, add more of these items into this design, we could. So we could add in another leaf, drop it down in here. We have this leaf now. We could do whatever we want with it. Yahoo. We have a couple of options here. We can create shapes from this vector layer. This is really nice with lines and other line work. We can get pretty do some fun things with that we can't currently do with it not being in After Effects shape. But it doesn't look like it kept my text alive. So if we want to do some more fun text stuff, then we can just use the type tool here and just type out something. We'll just take this, make sure that's correct. Find the right font, which I believe was a welterweight knockout. I could be mistaken. Much darker that type is. Goodness gracious. That is really noticeable. There we go. That's better. Anyways, yeah, it's not that. It's probably just, yeah, maybe that. It's close. Doesn't really matter right now. And we're not going to. After Effects is a never-ending, just crazy time hole that you can fly down forever. These effects and presets, there are text specific ones, and they do all sorts of stuff. But yeah, anyways, so we could easily recreate that text to do unique transitions in and stuff like that. But we'll see what we can do with what we got. I'm not too worried about it right now. Alright, so we have our composition, we have our file, our different layers separated out, as you can see here. So if we want to start actually animating things, we have to move down here to our nice little animation palette, and we start essentially opening up these different items, which give us different attributes that we can animate. I generally stick to position, scale, transparency, and then I use the easing graph editor here, and rotation. And those are the basics. From there you get fairly complex into other sort of these effects and presets sort of stuff. And then of course there's a million different things you can download online, which add more effects, more presets, more libraries, all sorts of stuff. It is absolutely bonkers. But that's not what we're talking about. So let's just do some basic animation and get started. Alright. Okay, so one of the first things I want to do, so you'll notice in the original design I had these little dots on each side here, and I had them on each side down here. I only want one unique design for this dot. I don't want to animate every single dot, so I'm going to just do this one. So what I'm going to do for this is I'm going to make this particular dot a precomposition. So a precomposition is a composition, right? So again, it's the, I can't remember what I called it before, but it's the frame that holds a design. And it basically turns it into, so we're going to go Inception here. It turns it into a composition inside of a composition. So in Photoshop, think of it kind of like a smart object. If you use Sketch, it's a symbol. And you can really make symbols inside symbols inside symbols, right? So it's a way of breaking down your animation so you animate in smaller pieces, but you can reuse those pieces throughout your design to make things easier for you. So we're going to call this dot precomp, and we're going to double click into the supposed dot precomp, which is now called circle. So whatever, circle. All right, now we just have our dot. So we're going to scale this bad boy. Here's our timeline. So this precomposition exists for currently 5 seconds and 19 milliseconds, or frames, 19 frames I should say. Milliseconds is not correct. This is currently a 24 frames per second animation, kind of a standard TV resolution. We could bump this up to 60 and have it be really, really sharp. I usually do 30. It's fine. It's kind of dependent on what you're doing. 60 is, really, really, that's a lot of frames per second. Animations look really smooth, but your files get really big. Probably won't matter in this logo case, however. Anyways, so let's turn this animation on. We've now activated scaling. You'll see it drops a nice little keyframe here, and let's say we want this to happen over a second. We can adjust this as we need. We're just making a basic assumption here. In the beginning, we want the scale to be 0. At the end, we want the scale to be full, 100%. Alright. If we play that back, hit spacebar. A nice slow scale. We don't want a slow scale. What we're going to do is we're going to play with the graph editor, which basically is how we get some nice smoothing animations. So if I play with this, what I'm basically telling this thing to do, so I have this set on a certain setting, which automatically pulls up a certain graph style. Doesn't matter. We won't go into that right now. So basically, I turn on my graph editor. What this particular editor is telling me is that over this 1 second period, I want the scale, the actual size of this item to scale in this manner. So it's going to scale from here up to 50. It's going to go above 100. So above the 100% that I set right here, then snap back down to 100. So that basically gives us kind of like a nice little like it overstretched. It stretched so fast it overshot its boundaries and then popped back, sort of thing. Which is like slightly noticeable. So if we go back to our shield. You can kind of see those pixels bounce, just a little bit. Let's see if we can really accentuate that bounce. Alright, now let's speed it up. You see it's a tiny bit there, right? That's how we want it to enter. Enter fast enough, then pop back into place. Bounce right there. Subtle, but effective. Let's increase it more. Oh, we're getting crazy. We're getting crazy. Crazy. Alright, I like that. Okay. There's other ways to animate that. We could have kind of keyframed those out a little bit more, but that's how I currently like to do it. There's a million ways to skin a cat. All right, so Command D duplicates this circle. We're going to move this circle all the way over to the other side of this word, this youth conference word. All right. So now, if we deselect this, boom. They come in at the same time, animate in. If I wanted to stagger this, I would not move the keyframes. So this is now a symbol, right? So if I changed this one instance of this, it would change it for every instance. All I would do is consider these kind of like the lifeline of your design, right? So you can move and stretch and change these things. But if I move this, I'm basically telling it to live a little bit later than this one. So let's accentuate that, right? Okay, so this one comes in, and then that one comes in. See how that works? Boom, boom. All right, if I make it closer, it'll be a little bit less. Okay, don't want that. I want them to happen at the same time, so we're going to move that back to the beginning. Okay, so we have those popping up. All right. I don't quite know what I want to have happen first. I know I want something with this star, but I don't know what. So let's figure out this star. Let's have it rotate 2 full rotations. Whew, it is really just flying. Maybe just 1 rotation. If you're wondering why it has that weird it's because this anchor point is not fully centered yet. So the more we center this anchor point, think of this as a thumbtack that you just stick, and this is where it rotates, right? So we put it all over there. Ayo, ayo. That's where it rotates. If we move this right to the center of this little bad boy, it's going to be a freaking ninja star. Hiya! Then obviously we can tell this, so this is full rotations, this is by degree. So we can tell this thing to freaking spin like a madman. Which is great. We do want a bit of No, it did not like that one little bit. Which means alright, well, I don't know, I guess worried about easing on this rotation, but It's weird because that is weird, right? Just auto select the graph type, guys. Oh, jeez. See now, we ain't getting no rotation, no rotish, no rotish array. Oh, well, is that why? Boom. Alright, now let's see. Boom, alright. Somehow that got mixed up. Okay. I want to slow down. Okay. I don't really know yet. So maybe we will put a negative spin on that. That is just absurdly fast. These graphs do not love me right now. Now it's just confused. I don't know where I want to go, Daddy. Man, why does it keep on? Alright, well, let's add some scale, some transparency to this equation. Okay. We will add those to there as well. Let's scale this down to 0. 0. Boom. Phase in, rotates. Voila. Just don't. Want to I don't hate it, but at the same time I don't really know what it is I'm doing with this logo animation. We're just making things up as we go along. Okay, so let's create a shape from there. Let's trim some paths here. Interesting. I was worried about that. So if I offset at 13%, dang it. It almost trimmed neatly. I did it 45. Ugh. It's terrible. So we'll probably have to end up masking it or something if I want to get like a nice straight unmasking of that object. But let's worry about that stuff tomorrow. For now, this has been good. Thanks everybody for joining, and keep on animating.